Hi, welcome to MovieNest. Let's dive into today's mind-blowing film. The movie kicks off in a gritty underground fight club where one fighter dominates the ring, winning match after match with ease. The crowd loves the action, and there's an electric tension in the air. Among the spectators is a woman scouting for someone tough enough to handle a serious job. She watches closely as the champion knocks out his sixth opponent in a row. The announcer raises the stakes, promising that anyone who beats this reigning fighter in the next round will walk away with the night's entire prize pool. Suddenly, a man in a hoodie steps up. The atmosphere shifts when he reveals his face. His reputation alone is enough to shake the confidence of even the fiercest competitors. The current champ doesn't even attempt to fight him. He just steps out of the ring, handing over the win and the money. The woman in the crowd immediately knows she's found the right guy. Later that night, as he heads to his car, he's confronted by someone angry about losing a bet. The man tries to stab him, but the fighter remains unusually calm. Instead of retaliating, he questions the attacker's decision-making, making the guy second-guess everything and run away, leaving the knife behind. Despite being injured, he barely flinches and tends to his wound with a kind of detached routine, like he's done it 100 times before. That same woman approaches him, offering him a job as head of security at her Roadhouse, a once popular bar that's now fallen into chaos. The local authorities won't help, and she needs someone capable of restoring order, although she originally had someone else in mind. Watching him handle the situation convinced her he was the right person. She even offers a generous salary, but he turns her down without hesitation. Driving away, deep in thought and clearly carrying emotional baggage, he ends up steering his car onto active railroad tracks. Just as a train approaches, he panics and tries to get out, but the car stalls. In a tense few seconds, he finally escapes, just before the train slams into the vehicle. Surviving by pure luck, he realizes he has nothing to lose, and makes the call to accept the job offer. He soon arrives in a quiet town called Glass Key. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, and it's clear he doesn't quite fit in. He meets a teenage girl and her father at a bookstore, who direct him to the bar he's meant to protect. They're skeptical but curious about how he plans to clean up the mess. At the Roadhouse, the staff quickly recognize him. For the moment, the bar is surprisingly calm, but that peace doesn't last long. As night falls, a fight breaks out among customers. Glasses are smashed, chairs overturned. The live band is safely behind a net, while chaos erupts around them. The new bouncer doesn't jump in right away. He simply observes. Soon, a biker gang storms in, harassing customers and getting aggressive with the staff. When one of the waiters tries to intervene, things start to escalate. The new guy steps in, not with violence, but with calm authority. He tries to defuse the situation and even suggests they step outside to talk. The gang leader refuses. So, the bouncer walks out and knocks over their bikes, an unmistakable challenge. They follow him outside, where he gives them one last chance to walk away. He even jokes about hospital coverage, making light of what's about to happen. One gang member, slightly more reasonable than the others, starts explaining how far the nearest hospital is, almost as if he knows they're going to need it. Outside the bar, tensions reach a boiling point. The lone bouncer takes matters into his own hands, calmly slapping each gang member as they try to intimidate him. When they finally attempt to fight back, he responds with precision, breaking noses and bones without breaking a sweat. Even after the damage, he offers to end the scuffle peacefully, suggesting they call it a draw. But the gang leader, too proud to back down, keeps pushing and ends up knocked out cold. One of them realizes his arm might be broken, and the bouncer, still composed, jokes that the hospital isn't far. Despite the injuries, the bar owner refuses to lend her car. Still, seeing that they need help, the bouncer insists, borrowing the vehicle and personally driving the bruised bikers to the ER. At the hospital, he even helps them with their paperwork. A doctor there, unimpressed with the sudden rush of wounded tough guys, sarcastically thanks him for filling up her emergency room. But his dry humor catches her off guard, and her attitude softens. While treating a wound on his side, she asks him why he does this, if he enjoys fighting and how often he wins. His answer is simple: no one ever really wins a fight. When she offers to stitch the wound, he declines, saying he needs to feel the pain, a reminder that it was his own choices that led to this. Back at the bar, the staff are still buzzing about the events of the night before. The bar owner hands over his first paycheck. During their chat, he comments on the surprisingly beautiful view from the bar and asks about the name Roadhouse. She tells him her uncle named it, and that it was probably meant as a joke, rather than staying in a motel. He mentions spotting a houseboat nearby and plans to rent it. She reveals that the boat is actually hers and offers it to him for free, though she jokingly warns him about a crocodile that supposedly took down a local's dog the year before. The boat itself, named simply the boat. That night, as he tries to sleep on the rocking vessel, memories of his past begin to resurface. His UFC career, the championship he once chased, and everything that came with it. By morning, one of the bar staff arrives with breakfast. She mentions how the Roadhouse has gone through more bouncers than anyone can count, but hopes things will be different this time. Later in the day, he visits a local bookstore to use their computer. Even there, his reputation has spread. People already know about the biker gang incident. While he's browsing, chaos breaks out at a nearby shop. Some of the same bikers are back, causing more trouble. A local girl grabs a bat and stands her ground, but when the bouncer steps outside, the bikers retreat without a word. Back at the Roadhouse, it's clear everyone in town knows who he is now. He jokes with the bar owner about how quickly word travels here. She explains it's just the way things work on this tight-knit island. He mentions the strange dreams he had on the boat, and she playfully refers to them as boat dreams, blaming the waves for messing with his sleep. Meanwhile, far from town, the man behind the biker gang's intimidation plan sits on a luxury yacht, getting a shave. He listens to the bad news. The plan to scare away the bar's customers failed, all thanks to one man. He's furious. Despite being advised to wait until they're back on shore, he insists the shave continue, and of course, ends up getting cut. His temper flares, and he lashes out at the crew. Though one of his men suggests involving his powerful father, the boss refuses. He's not ready to admit defeat just yet. Back at the Roadhouse, another fight breaks out, this time over something as simple as music. Instead of jumping in, the bouncer takes it as a teaching moment. He points out a shady-looking guy and calmly gives a waiter a quick lesson on handling someone with a hidden weapon. Surprisingly, the waiter pulls it off, dodging the blade and landing a solid counter. It's a small but proud win. Eventually, the bouncer steps in and finishes the job, breaking the attacker's wrist and letting the waiter take care of the rest. Over the next few nights, he watches quietly as the staff slowly step up. He shares tips here and there but saves his energy for his own training. Noticing one of the workers has scarred knuckles, it doesn't take long to figure out he's a boxer. Pairing him with the eager waiter, the bouncer creates a tag team to help control the chaos, giving himself a little breathing room. From the sidelines, he watches them handle situations like pros. One night, while escorting a drunk patron outside, he spots the biker gang again. They don't engage, just glare and ride off. That night, another nightmare hits, a memory from his UFC past, the build-up to a championship fight, the trash talk, the struggle, and then jolting awake, heart-pounding. The next morning at a local cafe, he runs into a familiar face. They exchange a few biting words laced with flirtation. It's clear that under the sarcasm, there's interest, but the bouncer is starting to wonder why so many people in this town seem on edge. He's told that Glass Key has its own unspoken rules. Loyalties run deep, grudges deeper, and even the local cops tend to look the other way. After another week on the job, he picks up his pay and heads back toward the boathouse. But something's off. A car starts tailing him. Then, without warning, it speeds up and nearly runs him off the road. He dodges the first hit, but the car reverses and slams into him a second time. The truck ends up teetering off a bridge. Climbing out of the wreckage, he sees the biker gang leader fleeing the scene. Moments later, the truck and its driver plunge into the river. When he gets back to the boathouse, the gang leader is already there, waiting, this time with a shotgun. He starts ranting like a movie villain, but the bouncer acts fast. In one swift move, he flips the table, crushes the man's knees, and tosses him into the water. Still, he tries to walk away from it peacefully, but just then, the crocodile that had been mentioned as a joke isn't one. It emerges from the water. The gang leader doesn't stand a chance. The bouncer tries to pull him out, but it's too late. By morning, local police are searching the river for a body. A local casually mentions that crocodiles like to stash their food, so they probably won't find anything. He then points out that this incident likely interrupted a bigger operation, one tied to drug trafficking, using the Roadhouse as a cover. But the location doesn't even make sense for smuggling. According to maps, the surrounding reefs make docking large shipments nearly impossible. Just as things begin to quiet down, a man approaches the bouncer outside and flashes a gun tucked into his waistband. He claims his boss wants to talk and demands he get in the car. The bouncer doesn't flinch. He explains, almost politely, what happens when someone loses the use of their trigger fingers. Then he demonstrates by snapping both fingers and disarming the man in seconds. Another guy nearby, clearly out of his depth, watches in silence. The bouncer tells him to deliver a message. If their boss wants a conversation, he knows where to find him. Oh, and he'll probably want to get his friend to a hospital, which is about 25 minutes away. Back at the Roadhouse, questions start to mount. Why was that gang so focused on this place? The bar owner plays it off, saying maybe it's some territorial thing, but the pieces don't quite fit. Elsewhere, the man behind the attack gets the bad news. His plan to pressure the bar into shutting down has failed again. One man, a lean, quiet bouncer, has unraveled everything, and now, frustration turns into desperation. As it turns out, this man's ultimate goal isn't revenge, it's real estate. He wants to tear down the Roadhouse and replace it with a luxury hotel. Then, The final twist, a call from his father, calling from prison. Far out at sea, a spoiled would-be villain takes a prepaid call from his father, from prison, but instead of answering, he chucks the phone into the ocean like a tantrum-throwing teenager. Then, in a move that only adds to his brilliance, he tells one of his lackeys to dive in and fetch it. Meanwhile, halfway across the world in Italy, a different kind of troublemaker makes his entrance, a ruthless fighter with a reputation for chaos. He's seen leaping out of a second-story window, completely naked, after being caught with another man's wife. He's sprinting through the streets with no clothes and zero dignity, then proceeds to burn the entire marketplace down. All this could have been avoided with one punch and a towel. Back in Glass Key, things take a much calmer turn. A woman surprises the bouncer with a borrowed luxury boat, one that once belonged to her ex, and takes him to her favorite spot in the middle of the ocean. She cracks open some beers, and they chat over the waves. The conversation turns toward the town's local drama. The bouncer mentions trouble brewing with a wealthy figure behind it all, and she explains just how deep those roots go. The man's family owns most of the land around Glass Key, and their money buys silence. When she asks about the bouncer's past, he hesitates, but she already knows everything. She looked it up. Still, she doesn't judge him. It brings them closer. Back on land, the chaos rolls in with style. The enforcer from Italy arrives in a sleek red Ferrari, blasting Dagestani rap, crashing into Brandt's estate with zero subtlety. In seconds, he knocks over an entire row of motorcycles like it's just another Tuesday. Then he struts in and takes over, barking orders at the biker gang, eating their food, and making himself at home like he owns the place. The former leader walks in and is completely stunned to see his crew now bowing to this new arrival. The enforcer was sent by someone far more dangerous, Brandt's father. He comes bearing a message, cryptic, ominous, and just vague enough to sound like a threat. Oh, and he casually drops a bag on the floor, packed with dynamite. Subtlety isn't his thing. Brandt, desperate to retain control, insists he can still handle things without help, but that illusion is fading fast. The enforcer gives him one last shot to clean up the mess, or else, back at the docks, the bouncer returns home. His wound, which once needed stitches, now looks like it never happened. But before he can relax, two officers appear to bring him in for questioning about the biker leader's disappearance. They take him to the docks, where the local sheriff awaits. The conversation quickly turns sour. The sheriff lays out how things really work in Glass Key. Everyone is connected, and outsiders don't last. He gives the bouncer a clear choice: leave town quietly or get locked up and never leave at all. Just as things get heated, the woman from earlier storms in. Furious, she slaps the sheriff across the face and defends the bouncer without hesitation. It's then revealed the sheriff is her father. Once a loyal man working for Brandt's father, he now serves the son in silence. She begs the bouncer to walk away before it's too late. While all this unfolds, Brandt's men stir up trouble at the town bookstore, threatening more innocent people. That night, the bouncer returns to the Roadhouse for his usual shift. But this night is different. Brandt finally shows up for a face-to-face. He knows intimidation won't work, and neither will money. So he goes for something else: guilt. He brings up the past, the infamous UFC fight that still haunts the bouncer. It was a title match against his best friend. He won, but didn't stop when the fight was over. He kept punching, even after the referee's call. His friend never got up. It's a scar that never healed, and Brandt knows it. But the mind games don't work. Then, the inevitable happens. The enforcer returns, this time walking through the Roadhouse doors like he owns the place, dressed more for a nightclub than a fight. Behind him, the entire biker gang pours in. With a smug grin, he loudly announces that the Roadhouse now belongs to him. The night takes a violent turn when a thug storms into the bar and starts causing chaos. He's loud, aggressive, and completely unhinged, even grabbing a woman off her date's lap like he owns the place. While everyone panics, the bouncer just sits at the bar, calmly sipping coffee, as if watching a scene from a movie. Two of the bar's regular bouncers try to stop the chaos, but the attacker knocks one out instantly and takes down everyone who dares step up. He's like a machine, ruthless and unstoppable. With the security team down, a full-blown bar fight erupts. Eventually, the bouncer gets up, realizing he can't ignore this anymore. He walks over and confronts the thug. The two men start hurling taunts at each other like stand-up comics, but things turn ugly fast. After a brutal headbutt, fists start flying. The brawl spills out of the bar and into the street. When it's finally over, the bouncer calmly walks away, leaving the bruised attacker standing there, not angry, but strangely impressed by the fight. Meanwhile, the rock band inside just keeps playing like none of it happened. Just another night at the Roadhouse. Later, at the houseboat, the bouncer begins packing his things. Frankie shows up, clearly emotional. She apologizes for keeping secrets and begs him to stay. It turns out everything ties back to a man named Brandt, a greedy developer trying to buy up the entire area to build a luxury resort. He's already bought out all the surrounding properties, except for Frankie's. She's the last holdout, and Brandt is getting desperate. He borrowed money from some very dangerous people, and if he doesn't pay it back, he's finished. Still, the bouncer doesn't seem moved, but she pleads with him, not just for herself, but for the town. She's scared, and this time she admits it openly, more than he could ever understand. Meanwhile, Brandt is furious after learning the thug failed to kill the bouncer. Things take a darker turn. As the bouncer prepares to leave town for good, he notices fire trucks and ambulances outside the bookstore. He learns that Charlie and her father have been badly injured, victims of arson. That's when it clicks. Brandt is targeting the people he cares about. That's the final straw. Determined not to run anymore, he heads straight to Brandt's hideout and finds the man responsible for torching the store. When he confirms the message was received, the attacker grins, thinking the plan worked. But he's wrong. The bouncer dodges a knife and lands a brutal punch to the throat, crushing his trachea. As the man struggles to breathe, he explains calmly, he's afraid, not of others, but of what happens when people push him too far. And this man, he crossed the line. After the fight, he loads the body into a truck. One of the biker guys, more of a bystander than a loyal soldier, sees him and nervously offers up some intel. He casually mentions that Brandt is expecting a huge cash delivery at Harvest Key at 5 a.m. Not wanting to get involved any deeper, the guy quickly excuses himself. The bouncer drives off, finds the crooked cop delivering the money, and knocks him out cold. Inside the case, more cash than most people see in a lifetime. When the cop wakes up, he sees the bouncer dragging a corpse to the water and firing bullets into it using the cop's own gun. The cop panics, but the bouncer calmly starts explaining how head trauma can mess with memory. Something about how memories need a few minutes to move from short-term to long-term. And since they've only been talking for a minute, well, it might already be too late. With that, he knocks the cop out again. He then uses a payphone to anonymously call the police and the media, tipping them off that a dirty cop just killed someone by the shore. As he preps a stick of dynamite, presumably for Knox, the local sheriff suddenly arrives. He delivers chilling news. Brandt has kidnapped Ellie, the sheriff's daughter. If the bouncer doesn't return the stolen money, she'll be killed. At first, he denies taking anything, but when the sheriff calls out the whole concussion memory loss trick, he finally admits it. Still, the sheriff is desperate. Whether he took the money or not doesn't matter now. Brandt thinks he did, and if there's any hope of saving Ellie, the bouncer is their only chance. Dalton's starting to believe there might be some truth to the threat, so just to be safe, he agrees to show up with the cash. He sneaks off with a boat, right under the nose of someone who turns out to be Ellie's ex-boyfriend, who also happens to be a cop, but he's not exactly great at his job. So Dalton sails off without much resistance. At the same time, Knox is enjoying his freedom, sipping coconuts and cruising around in a car from a local driving school. He parks outside Brandt's house, only to find it completely empty. Something feels off. Meanwhile, Dalton pulls up next to Brandt's luxury yacht and is greeted by one of Brandt's men. He makes it clear he didn't bring the money. This naturally upsets Brandt's crew, but Dalton holds his ground. The conversation shifts from threats to small talk about the yacht and how hard it is for Brandt to live up to his father's criminal legacy. Then things take a sharp turn. Dalton refuses to reveal where the money is, especially since Ellie isn't around. It's clear something shady is going on, and the local sheriff doesn't seem nearly as alarmed as he should be for someone whose daughter has allegedly been kidnapped. That's when the real twist drops. There was never any kidnapping. The whole thing was a setup. Another betrayal is revealed when someone admits they did actually take Ellie after all. While tensions rise, Dalton continues to play it cool, throwing in jokes as Brandt starts to lose his patience. But when Brandt gives the order to hurt Ellie, things escalate. Knox suddenly appears in the distance, and no one wants him on that boat. To create a distraction, Dalton blows up a nearby boat, then shows one of the younger henchmen how to throw a decent punch. Dalton fights off Brandt's crew and heads off to find Ellie, but Ellie's already taking matters into her own hands, breaking the cabin window as the yacht starts sinking. When Dalton finally reaches her, the room floods and the two are swept into the ocean. Dalton ends up in a water fight with one of Brandt's men while Ellie swims to a nearby boat, only to find Brandt already waiting there. He grabs her and makes a beeline for the Roadhouse, ready to destroy it himself. Knox isn't far behind. He tries to run Dalton over with his boat, but Dalton grabs onto the side and climbs aboard. They end up fighting on deck, and just as Knox is about to land a punch, Dalton spins the boat, launching Knox into the water, though he still manages to grab a rope and hang on. Dalton closes in on Brandt, who's now steering straight toward the Roadhouse. Dalton makes a last-minute leap onto Brandt's boat, where Ellie tries to stop the impending crash. Dalton jumps into the fight and knocks Brandt unconscious. He and Ellie leap overboard just before the yacht slams into the building. Even after the crash, Knox somehow survives. He drags himself ashore, steals a car, and speeds toward the wrecked Roadhouse. Inside, Brandt regains consciousness. Dalton shows up, ready to end things once and for all. Brandt grabs a fishing spear, but Dalton dodges and starts landing blows. Suddenly, Knox crashes through the wall. It's time for one final round. The two start trading brutal punches, still throwing in sarcastic remarks between hits. The fight choreography is top tier, intense, grounded, and cinematic. Dalton goes for a rear naked choke, but it's not quite locked in. Knox breaks free and stabs him with a wooden stake. Just as Knox is about to finish him off, Brandt yells at him to kill Dalton, frustrated with constantly being ordered around. Knox turns his rage on Brandt instead. That moment of distraction gives Dalton enough time to recover. He pulls the stake from his own wound and stabs Knox repeatedly, ending things in brutal, Mortal Kombat-style fashion. Ellie arrives just in time to see the aftermath. Dalton apologizes, though it's clear he just saved everyone. The sheriff walks in, offering to cover for him, but Dalton has to leave town. Ellie agrees. She tells him to go. Bleeding and exhausted, Dalton limps out of the bar. Hours later, Frankie stands in the wreckage of the Roadhouse, still hopeful that they can rebuild. Meanwhile, Dalton boards a bus, quietly saying goodbye to Charlie. Back at a burned-down bookstore, someone finds a hidden stash of cash. He runs out to catch Dalton, but the bus is already gone. Thanks for watching. One man, one fight, and a second chance. If you felt the heat, like, comment, and subscribe for more epic stories, only on MovieNest.